Okay, so now we have Jay Block giving his closing statement.
All right. So I'm the last thing standing between you and getting home. All right. So I only need about an hour and a half. Listen, we're in serious, serious times. Today, Marxism and intolerance are on the move, not just around the world, but here in the United States and here in New Mexico. This is why this election is so critical, because you need leadership, experience, and trust in elected office. And you don't have that. You know that's true with the way the country is going. The majority of the people believe this country and this state is on the wrong track because of the leftist movement to make us weak and vulnerable and poor. And that's where we are. It's where we are. And we can recover because Americans always recover and come out stronger. But you have to have the right people in the right job at the right time in office to fix and repair the damage Biden and MLG have done. The time to be nice is over. It's gone. Now is your time to stand up and have your voice heard and go to those polls and work at the polls as judges and watchers and knock doors and make phone calls and take your community, your state, and your country back. We are teetering in this state, in this country, where your children and grandchildren will not recognize the freedoms that we had, that hundreds of thousands of men and women have paid the price for. That's how serious this is. I ask you to pick a candidate that can win. I just came from the convention in Ruidoso a couple weeks ago. My message of hope and freedom and opportunity won that convention because it's a message that resonates across Republicans and independents and Democrats. And trying to get Republicans to agree is like herding cats. Remember that? The time to unite is now. What can I do for you as governor right away when you elect me? And I appreciate that too, by the way. I give you my word. Leadership, trust, and experience. I give you my word. Within the first 7 minutes, I will sign executive orders banning the 30-30 land grab that this governor signed, protecting farmers and ranchers and oil workers and tribal nations and private property rights. They will get them back, and they will always be protected in a J-Block administration. I will also sign executive orders banning vaccine passports and forced vaccines in the state of New Mexico. I will sign executive orders banning critical race theory in the state of New Mexico. I will never sign a budget that has any money of your money going toward abortion in the state of New Mexico. I will never, ever sign any budget that puts New Mexican taxpayers in the red. These subsidies for the movie industry, you are paying a lot of money for out-of-state people to come here and get rich. Spaceport's another big corruption scheme that you're paying for. I'm not supporting that. You need leadership, trust, and experience in the roundhouse. You can't have people voting for the Energy Transition Act or being absent on the Energy Transition Act and say they support oil and gas. That's not leadership, and that's not trust. I will always back our ranchers, farmers, and oil and gas workers because they work so hard for the people of New Mexico. Oil and gas is economic security and national security for this country. Because right now, we as Americans are funding, in part, Russia waging war on the Ukraine. And now we're going to go to Iran and Venezuela to ask them to ramp up production. Iran is the #1 sponsor of state terrorism to Hezbollah and Hamas that were trying to kill me and my brothers and sisters that served over in Iraq and Afghanistan. What the hell are we thinking? Weakness. I will also support getting rid of or I should say cleaning house in PED, because I can't get rid of it unless we have a constitutional amendment. I will put a PED secretary in there who is a conservative teacher that will not push critical race theory, and we will also make sure boys compete with boys and girls compete with girls in school sports. I will fight for law enforcement. I want qualified immunity back for law enforcement. I want bail reform back. I want judges that will put criminals behind bars instead of having them on the streets. I want Social Security, complete Social Security taxes gone instead of just piecemeal like it is now. I want veterans' pensions not taxed. I want to make sure our first responders are taken care of after 2 decades plus of serving New Mexico, where we can give them a tax cut if they stay here in New Mexico, because we want to say thank you for what they do. Because in 2021 was the most violent year for police officers across the nation. It was also the most violent year because our southern border is open. We have to get the National Guard down to the border and integrate with the Border Patrol, as well as create a border security agency that works for me as the governor, like in Arizona and Texas, that will be down there as a law enforcement agency, integrated and working and partnering with local, county, state, and federal law enforcement. Those are things that I can do for you and we can do together to help turn New Mexico around, but we must do more. We must get rid of GRT and look at reforming the entire tax code, as well as even getting rid of the state income tax in the state of New Mexico. We must put more money into the private citizen instead of the bureaucrats. It's funny that the left does not believe that we can govern ourselves, but why should we believe that they can govern us? That makes no sense to me, and it must stop. We have to have control back at the local level. Our schools must be reformed, like Greg was talking about, Rebecca was talking about. That's going to be done because we're going to get rid of a lot of things at PED, and you're not going to recognize education in the state of New Mexico when we're done working on it together, because you will finally have advocates for parents and students up in Santa Fe working with you. This whole getting kids ready for college, gone. We're going to focus on the trades. We're going to focus on technology. We're going to focus on getting kids with hands-on training out in industry and academic training in the schools to prepare them to go out and compete in whatever they're going to do, which is funny because we have probably the best petroleum engineering school here in the country, New Mexico Tech, and those incredible young, brilliant minds are going off to Texas, Oklahoma, and North Dakota. We want them here. I will not support subsidies like I talked about. And it's funny that the Energy Transition Act, you see all these windmills here. That's all energy that we're selling to California because they went on the Green Deal and they're having blackout and brownouts. And be prepared for it here. Be prepared for higher prices here. You're dealing with the highest inflation rates in over 40 years. And we're suffering. And the governor can enjoy her expensive Wagyu beef and her parties in her mansion and all that stuff, and throw us out in bread lines in the cold and have this ridiculous follow the science stuff of 25, 50, 75% openings, and have shut down small New Mexican small businesses, but keep big business and out-of-state companies coming in here like the movie industry, because that's critical, and yet you can't go to your doctor and get something done, but you can go get an abortion. And yet she blocks you, like Rebecca talked about, up at the roundhouse. I will never, ever put a fence around your roundhouse. That is your house. Those are your representatives. You have access to them at all times in a block administration. Never going to happen again in the state of New Mexico when I am your governor. Never. Because you're going to get your freedoms back. You're going to have your opportunities back. You're going to have your lives back. You're going to have some normalcy again. Your kids are going to be in school all the time. You're going to be involved. You're going to be able to make decisions instead of the government telling you what you can and cannot do. You have a very critical decision. I am the only candidate that has experience leading in the senior military, private industry, elected office. I've never lost an election. I don't have any ethics complaints against me. I don't have the political baggage. None of these candidates have that except me. If you nominate the wrong candidate, we're done. If MLG wins 4 more years. Nominate the right person. I ask you to take a look at Jay Block for governor. I appreciate the great support that you gave me at the convention when I won that. That was a message shot across the bow of the establishment that we are taking our state back. God bless you. God bless New Mexico. And God bless the greatest country on earth, the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed those 10 minutes from each of the candidates, and I'm sure